Welcome to RevCast, the Civilization podcast focused on its console platforms. I'm Reeves.
DanQ.
Ericball. That's right. You did the preview. You got to see it before we did.
Oh, yes, and I've actually played it since then. I've got it on the DS.
Ah.
The first console platform I've ever owned in my entire life.
Episode 7. This is Eric Ball, your guest co-host for today. And I also have with me the regular co-host, Joe B. Reeves.
Hi, how's it going?
And special guest from the regular podcast, DanQ.
I'll try not to scare people too much.
Now, what are we going to be talking about today in the Civilization Revolution world?
We had a question on the Civ Fanatics group about horse rushing, and I'm interested in some other people's opinions on it. And it's an online strategy, but it also can be used as an offline strategy. And the idea is that you produce as many horses, create armies, and start rushing cities as quick as possible. Kind of like a Zerg rush.
Yep.
Because horses are kind of cheap at the beginning. From a perspective of the offline game, the AI generally isn't going to do it because he won't collect mass units like this and just use them against you. So you have the ability to use it as an offensive weapon. From the perspective of the online game, how would you defend against such a thing? You have two armies of horses, either horsemen or knights, coming rushing at you. How would you defend against such a circumstance?
Typically, the AI do a lot of Legion armies are, but I mean, really, I found up until the modern era, your defense is far superior to offense. So if you get in a veteran archer army, he will just make mincemeat out of that horse army. It does not take that much. And if you are the Greeks, you got the hoplites to start with, and they aren't going to be touched until much, much later. That's what I've seen, is that if you're worried about multiplayer and someone doing a rush, get the bronze working, get your barracks, get your archers, and sit pretty for a while.
What about choke point fortifications?
Oh, same thing. You see a choke point, you want to build up barracks, archers. The one thing I do in my game is I'll build my barracks in my capital and then send out a veteran archer with each settler.
Mm-hmm.
All that city has to do is build 2 more archers and they have a veteran army.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Then I can sit back and relax.
Another thing you can do is you can send those archers out, and then if there are any nearby barbarians, you could use those to be going up against some warriors, and then you could get, there's enough there, you could get another promotion on top of, you have the barracks built, which I think is absolutely essential, as soon as you can in your cap, at the very least. Then you got another promotion to be able to start defending when the AI or the human player comes rolling in.
Well, that's true. You can settle, run your archer out a couple steps in front of it, go ahead and fortify, throw a couple archers on top of that, and now you got an archer army fortification sitting 2 spots away from your city to, if not stop, but slow down any encroaching single horse army. But if they pour, let's say, a couple horse armies at you, trouble.
The one thing I've noticed is for Civ Rev, and it's almost a bug, armies heal. An army isn't taken down to almost nothing. The next turn it's back up to full strength. So assuming that archer can survive that first attack and there isn't another attack in that same turn, the next turn, you're back to normal.
Yeah, very close, yeah.
If you're going to attack with a horse rush, you can't just do it with 1 horse army. You have to have 2 or 3 so that you can keep up that sustained attack in case they are defended. And you don't do it against the English.
Yeah. But also, I mean, if the other player has time to create these types of armies, you have the time to create defenses with cheaper units.
Yeah.
The horseman, for example, costs 20 units, so if you have horses pouring down the hill on and on and on, just constant horse attacks, and you don't have anything to defend against it, you're doing something wrong.
Although I've noticed the AI seems to be able to produce a lot of units very quickly sometimes. I'm not certain whether it's cheating or whether it's just doing a lot of buys or that somehow it's putting everything into production.
Well, always notice that the AI rarely has any gold.
True.
So if he has any, he's using it towards popping units, just rushing units out of it. I think a good archer defense, closing down choke points, and just basically maintaining some sort of production in the early stages. And there's a counter unit for your later horse units, like the knights, keshiks. There's counters for everything out there. If you're being overwhelmed by horses you either haven't expanded quick enough, you're not producing quick enough, or you're not producing against the people you're going against. They're producing horses, you're not producing defenses. You're doing something wrong.
That's very true. You've got to put in some artillery. In the late game, you put in a catapult army, and the knight army comes up, and you thump it.
Yeah, that's true. That sometimes the best defense is a good offense, and if you can see them coming, knock them out before they can get close to you.
That's right. It's better to do that with artillery than cavalry, because the cavalry tends to move outside your city, and then it get itself hit by them.
Mm-hmm.
So you're better off with artillery in that case. The one other thing is a choke point. You still have to watch your terrain. Putting a choke point beside a hill, not a good idea.
Oh, God, no.
Defensive units in particular, of course, those that have greater defense than offensive strength, constructing of the fortifications, just to put some numbers behind that, you're talking about 100% defensive strength bonus to all of the units inside. So if you can get one of those units out there quickly, plant it there, and then more archers pouring in as a choke point and add them on there, then as they get onto that tile with that one that's been sitting there, it will gain that advantage. And you can stack as many units as you want on there.
Put a fortification down on top of the hill with a pikeman army, and now you have a choke point. Now, I've popped a tank on an early bonus, and the tank got taken down by a single pikeman on a hill, which, of course, I was screaming about. But who's going to defeat a pikeman on a fortification on top of a hill's choke point? That could probably stay there until the modern era.
Oh, yeah, I mean, the hill terrain with the 50% offensive bonus, my goodness sakes, yeah. So you can be sitting on there and you can be watching as well. You can have it a little bit farther out from wherever your cities are as kind of a watch. Plus, you could also use it to take down some of those units or at least weaken them considerably while you realize, oh, man, my front is about to be overrun.
Yeah.
And then from back end of your empire, particularly if you've got roads and you've got units like horsemen and knights, which have double strength of your legions and your archers anyway, you can move in and finish the cleanup.
Yep.
The siege units were also mentioned. The catapults and then cannon and artillery, pretty cheap. Of course, catapults just have the one movement. I have not used catapults in an offensive situation, but in a defensive purpose to soften them up. It's absolutely wonderful. I think those are the two big things, but you can also look at promotions. Now, I realize promotions are a bit more random than they are, say, in Civ 4. Like, here are your two choices, one or the other. But if you can get loyalty for defensive units, which gives you plus 50% strength in friendly territory. Guerrilla for offensive units, which gives you plus 50% strength when attacking in your territory. Again, best defense being a good offense. And then leadership, which gives you plus 100% defense when in a stack. What a great promotion that would be for that choke point. If you could get it with all of those units in there, or even if you had a whole bunch of units stuck in a city that's on your border with some nasty little AI, or human player for that matter.
I've had archer armies that have gotten all 6 upgrades because they've been attacked so much.
Yeah. You can sacrifice units and slow down any oncoming rush unless it's a route that chases it off and allows the attacker to continue his movement. But sometimes throwing a single unit out there to stop their turn gives you just that much more time to be able to stop an onslaught and create some defenses, buy some units, and just prepare your defenses for the next turn, which is going to be the battle, the real battle.
Correct.
The second part of that question was to discuss what civs might be better at horse rushing. If you want to have a horse-rushing civilization, if you feel you have a weak opponent, or if you just want to go out with an all-out assault during the early stages of the game, what civs do you think would be best? My first thought is Americans, just because you can buy horses quickly, you can produce and buy. But he mentioned the Aztecs, the Chinese, and the Arabs.
I'd say the Mongols, they're Keshik, faster, that can help. I'm not certain if any of the others have an early cavalry unit that would help there.
Grayson mentions Arabia, but that's plus 1 attack for horsemen and knights in the industrial era. So that's a little later on. And we know with the Zulus can overrun their enemies more easily with the combat benefit. He also mentions the Aztecs. Units heal after winning in combat, so you can apply that to any particular unit.
God, that's brutal.
That's always a nice bonus.
Yeah, to go back to America, you got the 2% interest in gold. Doesn't matter that much at the beginning of the game. Later in the game, if you're going for that financial win, well, yeah, it's huge. But rushing units at half price in the medieval era is fantastic. if you want a horse army and you want to put it out fast, you don't want to necessarily focus on the production of horse army, go for gold, and now you've got horses pouring from your lands.
What is it about China that Grayson felt was advantageous to horse rushing, where I kind of went, wait, I think I'm missing something?
I can't think of any reason. In the early game, China gets the population bonus for settlers.
Start with the knowledge of writing.
Yeah, I'm looking at the tree to see if maybe there's like a path to feudalism that's helpful, or...
Tip strategy with the Chinese is for code of laws and then crank out cities as fast as I can. Obviously, code of laws towards feudalism, but for me, a early horse rush is almost based on horseback riding. If you're working with knights, you're into a middle horse rush, which is a different kettle of fish.
Yeah, I'm finding that the horse rush is really beneficial for those civs that are nearby you, and then expanding towards them with my cities, and then, of course, then being able to link those cities together by road to be able to get those units there faster. But then, just as an extension of that, once knights become available, then it becomes a night rush. And by then, with one or two great generals on top of it, when you think about all the other things with armies and veteran units and elite status and like the infiltration offensive promotion, 100% bonus when attacking enemy cities, I mean, it's just wild.
Man, I'm just looking around online. I'm losing something here, obviously. There's a lot of people that are complaining about the horse rush against the Chinese. Rush coming from the Chinese. Maybe it's the fact that they have riding and they can hit feudalism faster than other people, which gives them knight capabilities. I don't know.
Yeah, someone will need to write in or call into the show and explain that one to us, because I've seen far too many degrees of separation here to be able to say, oh, Chinese and the horse rush. Crap.
Yeah, the post that we saw is not unique. There's other people complaining about this thing or trying to figure out a strategy against it, and I just don't see it.
You can crank up your science enough so that you can skip over a couple steps and get to feudalism.
Yeah.
Of course, at first I was thinking, oh, yes, writing and libraries, but if it's Civ 4 I'm thinking of, it's Alphabet that gives you libraries, so then that would give you greater science to be able to get to those later technologies more quickly. So, yeah, like if they started with Alphabet, I'd be like, oh, yeah, okay, I'd see that for that reason, but, man, I'm sure someone will write us hate mail, and then we have something to talk about.
Yeah, we don't know what we're doing.
You people call this a podcast? Oh.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, anyone that has multiplayer experience and can provide that view is welcome to contact DanQ and get themselves up as a guest co-host on RevCast.
Chinese and the Horsemen, who knew?
Yeah.
I mean, I still don't, but...
We'll learn in a week, I have a feeling.
The only problem with some of the upgrades is that the attack always goes to the highest defender, which may be the defender that has the fortification, that has the great general, and they're the ones that get eliminated. Sometimes, you'd like to go against a full-away unit, and no, it goes against a unit that you're trying to save because he's got the extra bonus that you really need to have.
Yeah, you want to be able to pick your defender sometimes.
Yeah, or at the very least have it perhaps so that the attacker is even having whatever the type of unit is, that it has to go after a particular type of unit first, and then that way you can know what it is. It's like, oh, X number of unit is coming, so it's going to go after so-and-so unit first, and that happens to be my great general unit. Oh, geez, like, is there another way that I can defend, or do I have enough in there that I can move him out, and hopefully he's not going to die?
Yeah.
Great generals can be great to defend, but on offense, awesome.
Yeah. Well, and that's just kind of the crux of turn-based, though. It's not unique to Civ Rev. Civ 4, we face the same questions, the same problems. You want to be able to pick the defender or be able to retreat a specific unit because you know you're going to get crushed, but that's just the way it goes in turn-based strategy games.
Technique used in late game, especially when I've been taking over cities that are far away from my central core, I'll fly in wing of fighters, and that then becomes the core defense of that city. Something that I don't know if anyone else has tried is saying, oh, this is a long unit to move those fighters in to hold the line until you can bring up some better defense. And we're getting beyond our horseman rush.
Yeah, we are.
For more information about RevCast, sibling shows PolyCast and Modcast, or about PolyCast in general, log on to the series' official website at thepolycast.net. Record date July 25th, 2009.
Civilization Revolution Sounds, clips, copyright Take-Two Interactive.
Copyright 2009, Civilized Communication at civcom.net.